So, got some motivation. So, we're gonna make some progress, and let's get to it. All right. It is cold out here, but again, with the motivation, we're gonna use that to our advantage and make some progress. So, where I have left off with this, which has caused most of the delay, is the wiring. The wiring is, for me, something that I would love to do right, and I don't want to do anything half-assed. I don't want to do things involved with wiring that are cheap, because I've seen a lot of folks do their DIY version of wiring, and it ends up like a hack job. There's always something that they have to go back to. There's all kinds of issues, and I do not want that with this car at all. I want it to be perfect. So much so that I did a lot of research, started getting overwhelmed with the circuitry, the variations, how to go about things. In the car, in the state that it was, it has some hardware already installed, but not enough for me to decide how I'm going to do the wiring, how the circuitry is going to be laid out, relays, fuse boxes, all that. It was very overwhelming for me to decide how it's all going to go down, especially for me that I've never really done something of this capacity. This is the first time for it. So that, in between my day job, it took a lot of years. And I'm at the point right now that I'm going to move forward with it. I feel a little bit more comfortable. After many years of research and decision making, I have a pretty solid plan on how this is going to go. So I start feeling really good about it, start buying a bunch of stuff. So it's trickling into the house little by little as it gets here. And we're going to start doing some stuff. So let me flip the camera and show you what I'm about to do. All right, so fuel pumps have been installed a while back, and my idea was for me to do most of the hardware in place. So that way, when it comes to the wiring schematic, it would just be a matter of finding or routing the wires, because everything would already have a home. Now, one of the major things is over here at the dash area, where the ECU is going to be housed, along with a digital dash. And then I would have to wire all that, all the grounds for the ECU, and all the engine bay wiring harness that's loomed already inside here. It's all just loose. I'll show you. Like, it's more or less there, but as you can see, it needs a lot of work in there, a lot of cleaning up. But I've already organized all the, Jesus Christ. Let's see if I can, all right. That's just trash over time that's accumulated in there. I can clean that up real quick. Anyways, you can see right there is your computer, and most of the wires are already connected that are in the engine bay. Now I just have to clean that up, remove some dead wires. As you can see over here, there's things that don't really go to anything anymore. I just left it there because I want to depin them from the connector. I just wasn't at that point to do that yet. So all this is going to get cleaned up, and up here I'll install junction blocks, bus terminals, and go from there. So all that's coming in the mail, and then from here and here, I don't know if I'll get an angle here. For the dash, what I'm going to do is, man, that backlight is just killing the video right now. The dash, I will have to figure out how to mount that. I'm going to weld some tabs here and there, and do a fiberglass layover, and then just remove this and then replace it with a fiberglass one, so then I can mount the rest of the electrical circuitry to it. All right, so first order of business for me today is this is the most solid point I got in this area that's short for the grounding wires for the fuel pumps. So I'm going to throw two the ground terminals from here. I'm gonna drill a hole, tap it, and then we're gonna secure a grounding point there. I think I'm gonna do all the grounding for everything that's already installed, and then there's like 10 or 12 ground wires over there for the ECU, and I'm going to put those in a junction block and then do a big ground. So let's get to it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill and tap a hole right here, and I'm going to use just the regular most common body panel bolt, which is a threaded M6x1. So that requires a 13/64 drill bit. I'm gonna go ahead and get that ready. Put just a little bit of oil right there. I think right there should be good. All right, I'm gonna clean that up. I'm prepared. I do not have a vacuum. So for the most part, I'm just going to pick up what I can and leave. All right, now I have my M6x1 tap. Let's just go ahead and focus there. Let's put some here, some here, and we'll just go down till we bottom it out. All right, so we made some threads. Now what I'm going to do is insert a bolt here after I clean it up a little bit. Now part of what I'm going to do here is sand the corner or the edges around it. I got some really coarse stuff. This is P60. Now it's kind of dirty in there, but I'm just going to sand it anyways. To just drive the bolt. I say it's just a 10mm. Alright, that gets really tight. That's good. So we're set. So now I got my grounding point. I'll remove this and we'll make some wires. That's good. So what I'm going to do now, essentially just kind of leave this here for no other reason than just to give me a visual idea of how I want to do this, most likely at that angle. And then all the way down to this very moment, I'm still unsure whether I'll do ground, wire, down, splice it to this one and just make one, or individual wires and then crimp it in here. So we'll see. All right, my decision is the two wires, they'll just go straight to this one, to this terminal, and I'll splice it I'll crimp them in here in this terminal. So 2 blue ones for the negative here, they'll just run individually all the way till here. Just because the 14 gauge fits perfectly on the, obviously 14 gauge terminal, but it would be too small to crimp on the yellow one, but it would be perfect for it to be doubled up and crimped up in there. So I'll do that, and I'll put some insulation on these two. All right, so I created a two-part grounding wire. So let's test fit it here real quick. Let's put one here, put the other one there. This already has a washer. Now you want the ground to be direct contact here. You don't really want to add a washer. The washer goes up here. So we can secure this part already. That's not going anywhere. And there you go. The wires are also not touching the ground, which is something I wanted. That way it's not, vibrations are not going to affect the ground and as far as destroying it. So happy with it. Short, straight to the point. And yeah, that's it. Let's move on to other things. All right, so I'm working on the battery tray, and I'm working on mounting the bracket onto the body. And I'm looking at it right now, but the plate comes with 4 screws. And let me flip the camera so I can explain more. All right, it comes with those 4 screws, but the kit comes with just nuts on the back end. So essentially to mount it on a flat surface and then drill holes and put the nuts through or on the other side. I cannot do that because here where I'm wanting to locate or secure the tray is on a bowl, so to speak. So I went ahead and I bought these, they're called coupling nuts, but I would like to call them standoffs. Little towers. Got the right thread pitch for those type of screws because I didn't want to buy different screws to keep the cost down. So now with the standoffs, some are touching the floor and some are not. So what I went ahead and did is, let me see if I can just show this in the camera here. I went ahead and I put a large nut around it because some were still floating. So now I got the nut touching the base through the standoff. And what I'm going to do is super glue the nut to the standoff, and then I'm going to remove it, and then I'm going to weld it around to make specific to just make one piece. So let me explain it a little bit better. I'm going to weld that nut to that standoff, and then I'm going to weld the whole thing to the body. So essentially when I remove this tray, there's just going to be 4 studs in place. And that way it's not touching anything and it's secured. So what I did is, because as you see I got the level, I went ahead and one of the nuts were very tight, so I just went ahead and kind of like tapped them in to force that standoff through the nut, and kept doing that where it was necessary to get the bracket level. All right, so I'm gonna get those super glued so they can stay in place, so then I can just tack them and weld them. All right, so I did what I wanted to do. It's a little bit more challenging than I thought because I had to put the plate on and weld from underneath, and on this side, not being able to fit my face, not being able to fit my face with my face shield, my welding mask. It got very difficult. Eventually I got it blindsided. I had to do some blind welding. So then the second thing was, because everything was fixed to that being true horizontal and the base being concave, the nuts were touching on the corners and they were floating on the inside. So once I tack welded the big nuts to the base, or to the body of the car, I had to like run this bead of weld all the way down, all the way down, all the way down, to just basically have another leg. So the whole back is half bead, and then this side is more of a leg weld. This side half bead, leg weld, half bead, leg weld. And had to do it pretty fat. And then on this side I had to like blind tack weld, and it's kind of lumpy on this side. Not my proudest of welds, but definitely will get it done. So painted it black, and let's see how it fits. And then the beauty of this, if it, with the heat, I'm sure it probably warped the tower ever so slightly, but what I can do is just tap it with a hammer if it gets to that. So what I'll do is I'll just start one barely and give myself enough play for the rest. This one I might have to use a tool to drive in the screw. Okay, I'm good. Yeah, so see, got them all lined up. Not too bad. So let's secure it. All right. That thing is going nowhere, ever, unless you obviously remove it. See how it ended up being. So a little high on this side, and low on this side. So I did it on purpose, this side to be lower, just to have a little tilt for the center of gravity to be more in the middle, leaning this way. I wasn't banking on this side to be a little lower, but I think it's negligible, especially if the car's going to be going left and right. But if anything, also is leaning towards the center, which is that's where I want. If both ways, any product to be leaning towards the center of gravity, keep it more balanced. Yeah, not end of the world. That's as good as I can get it. Probably could do washers underneath if I really have to adjust it, but I'm not, because I'm happy where it's at.